to Unpacking, where all right,
Okay.
where we unpack our separation and ultimate divorce.
Yes, welcome to the show. Camera one, camera
Okay, okay, yeah. So, I'm Nayah,
two. And Mark. And Mark.
and we were once coupled. Then Mark said, maybe we should go through uncoupling.
And so we did.
And then now we're here, unpacking it all.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
Yes. So, a big question has been a lot of people ask us is how you guys still friends? Obviously, because we're sitting on the same couch and recording a podcast, a vlog, telling our story. We're not enemies. There are days we feel like that. Have you ever felt like that?
No.
I have.
We'll unpack that.
Have you felt when I felt like that?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
What were some of the signs?
I don't know if it's a sign as much as a billboard. No. I think at the beginning there were definitely times when I felt that, and I think the first time I felt it was soon after we had made the decision to separate, and I think there was something that you were doing, and I wanted to help, because I'm just people who know me, they just know I just like to help, so I offered to help, and you let's say you declined in a not very polite way. It was like a very hard no.
I don't know what this day was.
So I think those it was maybe a job application, something.
Oh, you probably wanted me to review something.
Yeah, or
Yours.
something. I don't know. No, I think it was something for you, and I also offered to help.
Uh-huh.
And
No.
yeah, the no was kind of like very raw edged, and I was very taken aback. And yeah, it's done. I felt stunned because I was doing it to the best of intentions. But then at the time we were still going through our like counseling, group counseling, and also individual. Guys, get counseling. This is a plug for counseling. It's amazing.
This whole thing is about therapy.
Yes. So, so through therapy, I shared with the therapist what had happened, and I was kind of hoping for some sympathy, and I'm just no. He was like, right now, you guys are like you made this decision to separate, and so Naya is like finding her own path in her own way, and she needs to separate not just physically but also emotionally, physiologically from you. And so when he said that, it made sense, and kind of took this thing off, not completely, because also like I'd never felt that kind of type of a no from you.
Because I'm a generally pleasant person.
Yes. And, and so I think a while after that, not too long after, maybe, I don't know, maybe a month, I don't know what the timeline was. Again, a situation came up, and again, my knee jerk reaction is always to offer help, right? So I offered help again. He said no again, but this time, because I guess I'd forgotten the lesson. Mm-hmm. So you reminded me inadvertently. I don't know what the second ass thing was that I was, maybe that's the time now that I asked you to review something for me. I can't remember what the situation was. And again, there was this no, and it wasn't like it wasn't a nice no, like I'm busy. It was like no, and nothing after. Like, complete sentence, like no.
And you know what? That's why we're unpacking.
Yeah.
Because no is a full statement.
That's true.
Right? I think lots of times we want to qualify, especially, like our kids. You say no to them. Why? Why? And then you feel like have the need to explain why you're saying no.
Yeah.
But sometimes it felt right. And when I was unpacking in my sessions or just with myself in my quiet time, I'm a people pleaser, believe it or not.
No, I believe that. Kind of go out of the way and stuff for people.
I love to help people, and but I think a lot of times we don't realize that helping and supporting people is a privilege, and the gift of giving yourself, right? So to me, I was like, you lost that privilege. Because at that time we weren't friends like what we're talking now. Like there are certain things that I know that because we're in relationship for 10 plus years, that some jokes you'd send to me and I want to laugh about them, but I would intentionally not, because I'm like, nope, I'm not your person.
Yeah, so I send you jokes which are very funny because I have an amazing sense of humor. Thank you so much. That's what she's trying to say.
No,
but
there are some things that are like very Kenyan that if you send to our other groups, they're not going to understand. But I'm going to understand because I lived in Kenya.
True.
And even some jokes maybe from like the church we went to, or that you're like, oh, Nayah's going to get this, and you sent to me. I'm like, I will not laugh at this one.
It's okay to admit that I'm funny. Thank you.
You didn't create the jokes.
But I absorbed
you
the humor.
Them?
Yeah, exactly. I don't just send you any old trash jokes. I'm like, it's the top tier stuff. But anyway, I hear what you're saying, and I think that second time when you said the no, because I didn't learn my lesson the first time. The second time, my mindset was very different because first I felt the sting, and then memory kicked in, and I was like, okay, I had this conversation with Doc, and I needed to remind myself of what he said, and that this is how it's playing out now. And so I adjusted mentally and accepted my no. I took my L. And I understood. And I think one of the things from during that period is I did my best to start kind of pulling back,
giving space,
and giving you space.
So let's talk about things that were space related. So this house back then had a key, and you had a key, and you would just come in the house. And I'm like, it's not your house. Like, I'm gonna need you to understand this is not your house anymore. And I think those are the hard parts of because for me the hardest, like, that was such a hard ask to say, okay, you need to give me your key. Like, you could have made copies or whatever, but I needed to say, give me the key. Cannot just be opening my door anyhow. Yeah? And then now you still do it. That's another conversation.
With notice, though.
Which notice?
I let you know when I'm on my way. Do you not? Check your phone. Yeah. 3-letter acronyms, OMW, on my way.
All right, so we live, 12 minutes away from each other. And we have a very great co-parenting, arrangement, and relationship. So we have a schedule. We have a Google Calendar that we share. So initially, we were trying to do the weekends, um, and then because Mark does photography, a number of the weekends he'd be working, and then I'd have the kids, and I was feeling like I was getting the short end of the stick. So I talked to another mom who is also in a co-parenting relationship, um, and she said, "Oh no, we do 1 week on, 1 week off," and I was like, "Oh, I love it. That really works for us. We don't necessarily do 1 week on, 1 week off. Sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's two."
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 weeks, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we flip it. But I think this far in the journey, it's been just understanding that um, his success at what he does and things that, bring light to and love to his life are important to him as a human. And when he's happy, our kids will be happy. That's important to me. And we want happy, healthy kids because we understand that this process has been very heavy on the kids. Um, and so I think creating space, because we're both very creative people, um, creating space for each of us to remain creative. So for me, it's travel. Like I traveled a lot. And I'm like, can you? Like it's always like hello or text. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I think for us, the fact that we were married and in relationship, it is positive in the way we've handled this second phase because I think he has an understanding of me um, that he's not used against me. Now, I don't know. I was unpacking with my mom. We were just talking, and so I remember the one time, I think Mark was taking me to the airport, and the gentleman I've been talking to, and I didn't tell him about this impromptu trip. Well, I told him that I may go on this trip, but then he goes, but I didn't tell him that it was like later, like within 4 hours, when he was heading to the airport. And like Mark knows that if Nayah sees an opportunity, it could be 20 minutes and she's like gone, right? So for me to be like, yo, I need to go to the airport, he's like, when? Someone else that can be like a source of contention,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you said, I think you overheard us talking, so I'm like, I told you that I was going on this trip. He's like, yeah, but you didn't, you're like on the way to the airport. I'm like, I know. Trying to be calm, like, I know. But you see, I was doing all this stuff, and then, I was checking the flights, blah, 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 and then boom, I'm on my way to the airport. So he's like, okay, whatever. So now Mark, after he goes, I'm gonna have to, kind of give these guys an orientation on how to deal with Nayah, right?
Yeah.
So I was telling my mom, and she's like, I don't know if that's a good thing. not not the part of you giving an orientation, but just like, so does that mean that he appreciates that you're like that, or that was part of the problems in your relationship? What do you think?
No, I don't think it was. I think I came to understand you, the spontaneity,
Uh-huh.
the risk taking. I'm very much more risk averse.
Yeah.
I think I've grown in that area. I take a lot more risks now, but I don't think it's a bad thing. Um, I think it's who you've always been with a lot of things that you've done. You've kind of seen an opportunity, gone for it. It may work out, may not, but you're gonna give it a shot. And initially, it was a problem for me because I am kind of very much more structured in that sense. You're structured in some ways and not in others. Like when it comes to trips, no, no. It's like, okay, you make a beeline for the opportunity and that's that. And I think over time I came to admire that and to understand it. And it's it stopped being an issue at all for me. I'm just like, okay, you've seen the flight, you know where you need to get to, you know, let's do it. Let's get you on the flight, you know. Sometimes traffic might be our enemy, but I don't think it's ever been a source of contention to me. Like after I got over that initial, I remember like that time when I was still in Kenya, and you go to Korea, you know, and then you came back, and then I think you went to Dubai. Like you used to travel a lot, and I used to travel a lot as part of my job, but that's different. Um, and so you know, it didn't take too long for me to kind of understand like travel is a thing, and it's a big thing for you. So, and because you know we could, we traveled and you you got stuff done, and um, yeah, I mean one of the
And
things
I
that
still do. Right?
yes,
Right?
yeah,
So, I guess part like people say people have a hard time recognizing that we're not a couple because uh, I think we understand each other,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And we've gotten over the hump where we can lean on the fact that we had a good friendship before, and
mm,
you still be my ride to the airport
mm,
at the last minute.
mm.
Oh, and know that you have to pick up your children from school. So,
Yeah, yeah, it
um,
is that, yeah,
yeah, I think it definitely works because obviously with the kids involved.
mm, mm,
Now, if this was 11 years ago,
mm,
um, I don't think we would be unpacking as
mm,
much
mm,
because when there are kids involved, that's when you're saying, how do I navigate the relationship with the
mm,
father or the
mm,
mother of my
mm,
children
mm.
for the rest of my life,
Right,
right?
right,
And a lot of times in African culture, it's so
mm, mm,
contentious, right?
mm.
It's like you see couples try not to be in the same
Yeah,
spaces
yeah,
or in the same,
mm,
rooms or
mm,
whatever.
mm.
Um, Now, we're not doing this to say there's a right or wrong way to do it. Obviously, there are
Yeah,
different situations,
yeah,
but I think navigating, separating ourselves from the relationship that we maintain with
mm,
our kids
mm,
as partners in
mm.
parenting, and then our greater family as well, and
Yeah,
how we interact with each other. Because your mom will call me, your sisters will call me, well, one sister, and then
yeah, yeah.
I remember one of our friends local here remembers like when my mom was here, and then she was like, "Oh, he said your mom just picked up the phone and called Mark." I thought that was really amazing, right? I must say that I was mad at my family for a while after we separated.
Okay.
Are you surprised? That's why we all back.
Yeah, thank you.
That's why we all
Tell me more. You're mad at them for staying in touch with me.
not staying in touch with you per se. I feel like at certain times you just need, I don't really know what I needed, but I felt that they were being too diplomatic.
Mm.
Call me irrational,
Mm.
call me whatever, but they were just like trying to be a friend and everything. And this is exactly how I felt at that time. Like they're just being nice to him.
Mm.
Like they're not even giving him any grief.
Mm.
Like what is this? I'm
Mm.
not suffering here. Granted, and everyone suffers, right? When there's a separation, divorce impending, and all of that, everyone suffers.
Mm.
But you're my sister. Like I'm gonna need you to be like,
Yeah.
fist up for a minute. For
Right.
a minute, give me that. Like I need you to have my back.
Right.
And I felt like I didn't get that. I was just like, that's how I felt.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I think I think maybe there are two things there that might have affected your the lack of, fist up. One is that, I didn't um I tried to not make it antagonistic. I know it was a painful time, but I tried also. I mean, I'm just generally a diplomatic person as well. But not only that, I think also there's an element of, again, I think maybe culturally there's, because we're the eldest, right? And there's a culture of respect that comes with age, um, that might have come in there, and also because much as I know and I acknowledge, I've never denied that I hurt you. Um, I don't think I was malicious about it or looking to like really destroy your life, in that sense. I think if I was that guy, I have no doubt, like,
You'll come for your egg.
yeah, they will come for me. Your mom will come for me. They will all come for me. And I think because that wasn't the dynamic that existed at the time, maybe that's why they didn't put their fists up in the sense that you were maybe hoping for.
And it's not like you hope for, and
Yeah.
like there'll be blood and tears and stuff like that.
Right.
It's, and I think again, this is why we're doing this. Is that a lot of times there is a need to take sides,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
There's a need
That's true. Yeah.
to
Mm.
align with one person
Mm.
so they feel protected, right?
Mm.
In this instance, it was like, okay, he's not like physically hurting her. It's not like you cut off money, bank
Mm.
accounts closed and stuff
Mm.
like that.
Mm.
I've seen that happen.
Mm.
Or you disappeared with all the furniture in the house, like stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
People have had
Yeah.
like really terrible
Mm. Breakups.
breakups.
Yeah.
But maybe if anyone can take anything away from this is that the breakup process, hope if you can, because when you're dealing with separation, it doesn't happen the day the person leaves the house.
Mm.
It's happened
Mm.
probably years before,
Mm.
and you're still trying to navigate that before you make the final decision,
Mm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And hopefully, in that process, this gray area where you're navigating, should I stay or should I go? Right?
Yeah.
You're not doing things that really, really inflict more pain
Mm.
than the pain that's already there,
Yeah.
and more trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, in hindsight, staying in that gray area, that's a very toxic place, right? And I think that's where the years of therapy and meditation and journaling post gray are needed, because you gotta
Mm.
unpack that.
Mm.
You have to unpack
Yeah.
gray,
Yeah.
right? Before
Right.
it was white or
Mm.
black or white,
Mm.
then it's gray, and
Mm.
then now it's whatever color you
Mm.
choose, right?
Mm.
So I'll go with orange or green. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's really that gray zone. It's an awful time,
Mm. Mm.
but I think gray also sets the tone for the next color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. And coming back to something you said, I actually do remember once on the group that we're in, um, and it was just before you were when it kind of like finalized on Barbados and stuff, and we were prepping to travel. And one of your sisters called me out in the group because I hadn't really said anything like very specific on the group. And that to me was a put your fist up moment, right? In that I was like, I saw why she did that, and it made total sense. And it also forced me to, in that moment, unpack what was happening, what had happened, in a very short space of time, and reply into the group. um, because
Etiquette, respond
you know,
within 10
so
minutes.
yeah, so I couldn't disappear. It was one of those where I had to deal with it in the moment, um, on the fly. Um, it was very hard. It was very hard, but very necessary. And I think for me that was and I think she was probably the only one who, just because of the dynamic and her personality, was the only one who would be the one doing that. I don't see any of the other folks that are doing
Yeah.
that, right? So, not that they didn't want to, and maybe at some point we'll talk to them and see what they felt. Um, but yeah, for me that was definitely like, yo, you're gonna explain what happened, or I'm gonna knock you out. So there was that, and it was a good like seat of the pants kind of, like I need to get my thoughts together in a very clear way and explain exactly what's happening, etc. Um,
So
but
backstory
mm,
maybe is that when was it? My dead day, August 9th, 2019,
20.
2020. So yeah, we were going for therapy. We were still in the gray zone, but you'd already moved out, and then he dropped the bomb. You know what? It's not working. Let's just move on to the next color, right? Like no more gray, no more. What was his name? Doctor, whoever.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Zing.
Dr. Zane. We done. And I was like, okay, happy birthday to me. Do you realize that? Did you realize that was my birthday when you said that?
Was it?
Yes. It was my birthday. I know exactly where I was standing and what I was wearing.
Oh wow. I
And get this, y'all. Get this.
Uh-oh.
Oh, oh, oh. When did you propose to me?
Hey. Okay. Exactly 10 years before. No, 11.
Was it 11?
Yeah.
2009.
Yes. To 22.
Yes, yes, yes. 11 years.
Did that really happen on your birthday?
It did.
Okay, I'm sorry. It never hit me. I till you've said it now, I didn't realize that. And oh, ouch. Damn.
Then you're walking into the living like, okay,
Wow.
you sweat.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. That was extremely tone deaf of me. I admit. Okay. 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 Yeah.
This is healing because
Yeah.
before I was like, I wrote to my sister, I was like, can you believe? Hey, me, a princess. This was happening to me on my birthday. Hey, Jehovah. Hmm.
Lord.
African money, Mickey Mouse.
And this is one thing that uh I really respect and honor and thank you is that you actually had lots of reasons to be like a real what word can I use? Is this what's the rating PG rating on this?
Mature audience.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I guess it's mature audience. Yeah, I mean you had every right to be um rhymes with G at the front end and rhymes with which at the back.
Really? Really?
Okay, bye.
Hey.
Yeah, okay.
Find a,
Our kids are going to what's this?
find a word in Swahili that you can use.
I don't think Swahili has that word. It's a very polite language. Thank you very much. But yeah, and again, this is often that what happens in many relationships that have gone through this is there's a lot of acrimony that's built up, and depending on how you deal and navigate that part of it, the acrimonious gray, maybe gray part, um, it will really dictate how you move forward from there. And I think you consciously chose to not go the acrimonious way, even though you had every right to.
I did.
So I'm very grateful for that. I think it set us up for, fast forwarding to where we are now. Because I think ultimately our friendship that we had forged at the beginning of our relationship kind of was allowed to re-emerge in a new way, of course, a different way. But I think that because you gave it space to do that, and I credit you because I didn't like I wouldn't have had a leg to stand on, right? In terms of being mean to you, there's no grounds for me to even be unkind to you at all.
That's not even an angel.
Okay. Dial it back a few notches, Turn that volume down. So I think I want to acknowledge that. And again, talking about culture, right? It's not the norm, whether in our African society, whether in out here in the West, or um, it's very rare that happens. Unfortunately, I don't have statistics on me, but just anecdotally thinking about what has happened to even our friends who have separated, it's been mostly very nasty. Um, and they've never gotten to a place so where it's healthy. They end up being at best cordial because of the kids. But like for us, I think we've redefined or reforged a friendship, a genuine friendship, um, that kind of bucks the trend in many ways. And that's again why we're doing this, is so people can have a different perspective on what happens when you separate, when you decide to divorce. It doesn't have to be, uh, burn the house down.
No, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. But I want to talk about the fact that it doesn't, also the fact that we're sitting here and talking and laughing doesn't diminish the pain and the agony and the stages of grief that someone goes through.
That's true.
Um, I had bouts of depression. You know, everyone handles depression differently, and I had never seen myself the way I did when your worldview automatically has to change, right? And it's something you had been very hopeful for a season. Then for that great period, you're like, I don't know what's going on. There's still a sliver of hope. And then you're like, okay, how do I shift my paradigm to this new normal? And change is always difficult, right? And I think that's where, I had very many, I would say mental, psychological challenges, but also physical. Like I react to stress. It comes physically in my body, whether it's, blood pressure, weight gain,
joint pain,
all kind headaches, incontinence, all kinds of things. And just like I felt like I was at my worst, So I definitely feel like it's been a journey, but a lot of journeys, you never know what the destination is like until you get there. But in life, is there really a destination? You just want to enjoy the journey. So some parts of the journey are bumpy, some are like smooth and beautiful. And along the journey, you can pivot and look for new destination, new way to travel, and that's what relationships are. Yeah. But back to African culture. So before a couple gets married, right? You have to technically come and ask for my hand in marriage from my family, not just my father or, the primary parent, whatever, but it's a family thing, right? And you didn't even get the hard end of it, like, because I'm from the palace, right? I'm a princess, so
she really is. When you say that, it's not it's not said frivolously. Yeah, it's fact.
Yes, Manco princess right here. Still, we didn't do all the traditional rites and everything, and technically, we owe a fine to the palace. Like, especially now with the new coronation happening, and it's a whole other thing. But it's a beautiful thing, right? There's a fine owed for now because we're supposed to go get the blessings of the ancestors, right? And there's a special place where princes and princesses are taken to. You only see this when you're getting married, right? And we didn't get to do that. So I was talking to one of the princes, and he was explaining to me that this is what's supposed to happen, what was supposed to happen. And I was like, well, now we're not together anymore. And he was just like, okay, I can't deal with this right now.
This is not in the rule book.
I don't know. We're going to figure it out. But we're not going to finish the first one where you have to pay a fine. We're not coming to the palace. And now you're here. He was like, so what do you want now? Like, I said, so what? So that's a whole other discussion. But we're saying, you got to come, like, technically with with your family, because marriage is not just a union of two people, it's a merging of families, right? Uh, and you can see out throughout history, marriage was done for various reasons. Um, so I know you were trying to get some palace clouds, coming to this princess here. Then this princess stressed you out, whatever. I don't know. We'll discuss that later. Um, but it's like, I remember like you having to go to my dad, and you guys had your time alone, and you were talking, and all of that, and then when now we're like having this uncoupling discussion, you're just trying to be like, okay, we're not going to discuss this with the family. I was like, oh, no. When you came to say that we should be a couple, did you come ask me alone? No. You have to go to my parents. You have to talk to them. Are you hearing me?
Ladies and gentlemen, Nayah, y'all.
And you were like,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we actually said that we don't. Maybe
you
I
were
alluded to it.
avoiding it.
I was avoiding it. I
You
was.
didn't want to do it. I was like,
Yeah, actually, fun fact. So our very first session with our therapist, um, one of the things that he asked was how would we characterize each other, and Naya came up with like I think he asked like if you had to name your partner's one trait or whatever, what would you name them? Like if it was a name that you gave them. And her name for me was avoidance. And it's true. It's true. I used to really avoid tough conversations, tough situations. And later on, I can reveal some of the stuff he and I talked about separately. Okay. Because we unpack it. So, um, one of the things was because um, that's how I used to operate. Like when my mom and dad were having uh, um, when they would have a disagreement and stuff like that, my default was always to go and try and mediate and fix things and avoid conflict. So for me, I've always been the one trying to make peace. In school, I was a prefect. I don't know if people know what that is or whatever, but I would always be the one,
like a leader.
yeah, like a student leader. So I'd always be the one, preventing fights or breaking up fights, and that continued throughout my life. I would always avoid confrontation, and so because this was something that was very hard and uh, potentially acrimonious, I was trying to avoid it. I was like, is there any way we can do this thing without, telling your people? But I knew it was an untenable position, but I was trying to prolong it as long as possible. Just,
Yeah, I was like,
yeah, yeah,
you talk to my mother.
yeah.
My father, God rest his soul. He would have dealt with you differently.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
you. Hey, that's all I can say.
It was tough. I mean, it was hard going to your family. It was very hard going to my mom, because
Your poor mom, she would call me
she,
and be like, I don't know what's wrong with my son.
yeah, like the thing
What's
is,
wrong with you?
Naya wove herself into the fabric of the Katharima family entirely. Like those guys, they love you, and they're not your family. My mom's side, they love you like completely. Like you're just them. They're just one of them completely. So that made it doubly hard to kind of go and share this this news. And yeah, it, man, palpitations, like for real. I didn't, that was one of the hardest things, you know, after telling the kids, that was definitely, the second hardest thing was uh, to tell my mom, to tell your mom, you know. I think a bit easier with the siblings because with your siblings, let me just say, with your siblings, I think they have a slightly different mindset, uh, different exposure to life, um, different life experiences, and again, I think there's that thing of I always appreciated how they treat me like an elder brother. So I didn't think that they would be coming from my edges.
Mm-hmm.
So
And you used to bribe them with gifts. I'm like, how you gonna buy them thoughtful gifts like that? Then they be asking, where's this gift from? Like, it's not from me. I'm not that thoughtful. And it'll be from him. And then you don't buy me thoughtful gifts.
what?
I'm joking.
Yeah, no. I was gonna fight that one. You're like, mm-mm. I tried to keep it actually. Um, so yeah, it was very hard to bring up that conversation again.
And I think
Culture.
that's why a lot of, uh, I can't speak for, every culture, but when you have to have the families come together
Mm.
and you gotta have a concrete, solid reason. Like, you, this small boy, you have called us to sit here for what? What is it that you have to say to me? Eh? Answer. And I asked my mom how the conversation with you went. She's like, I didn't know what he's saying. What? What is he even saying? What is he saying?
I can still hear my mom saying exactly that.
Just here, just talking. I don't know what he's saying. I don't understand this thing. What did you say? It's like, you're just talking, he's crying. Anyway, he's saying you're just upset. So I don't know what's wrong.
Hey, yeah,
I think like that's the dread that people are like, I'm gonna have to go face her mom, her dad. And now in Cameroon, like if we were doing this, traditionally, when you come for a woman's hand in marriage, you don't just talk to my father because I am a child, one of the palace,
right, but also
of the
community.
people in the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
So you have to go to this uncle, to that uncle, to that uncle, to this auntie. Like there are key people in the community, in the family, that you have to be like, I'm the one stepping up to unite our families, right? To find alliances and and so I can imagine that you'd have to go back to all those people. I'm just guessing. I don't know if that's how it really happened, but there's that level of accountability,
Yeah.
which transcends the relationship, because when you have children, those are the people coming to see the first child or to pour blessing and those kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Throughout the years, so people stay because of the shame, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And they'd rather live a false existence than face it,
Right.
which was something you proposed, Mr. Avoidance.
I mean, you didn't need to put such a fine point on it. Yeah, but like, if like my default would be like, if I don't have to deal with it, let's just, not do it. But
You were like,
it was
can we just stay in the same house and live separate lives? And nobody has to know that it's not working. I was like, who? Well,
okay, people. My dirty
what?
laundry is out. It's
We
out. It's out
unpacking.
there. Yeah.
You can throw mine out there.
Yeah.
There's nothing new under the sun. I'm
No,
sure
so
most, a lot of
yeah.
people think that way. And the
Yeah.
reality is, a
Yeah.
lot of people live that way.
That's true. That's very true. That's very true.
A lot of people live that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're very unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that stood out to me for a number of years is that you just kept saying you're not happy. I was like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
what is it?
Yeah.
This was since Indiana. You're like, I'm not happy. I'm like, okay.
Mm.
Then find your happiness. Like, be happy. So, are you happy now?
Yes. Yeah. No, I am. I'm happy. I'm happy now. I think it's been a journey to getting here. Um,
When did you realize that you were happy?
Last week, Tuesday.
2 o'clock.
Yeah. I don't know. I think um, after the gray started to fade a bit now, and I chose colors. What color did I pick? Maybe blue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, that the point when I started to live my authenticity, when I started to live my truth, when I started to just be like, you know what, this is who I am. These are the choices I've made. I will live by them. I'll face the consequences of them. And, you know, people can think whatever they want, tell me whatever they want, but this is how I've chosen to live my life. And the point at which I was okay with that decision, it felt like a huge weight was just dropped off my shoulders. I no longer had to live in this mold, to fit this mold. I no longer had to follow this path that has been preset. I no longer had to fit quote unquote cultural norms. Because I think, again, right, we're rotating on culture. I think I've always had like an unspoken rebellion against a lot of things that culture tells us to do and prescribes for us to do or to be. Whether that's, my culture as a Kenyan, as an African, culture as a Christian, culture as a man in society, excuse me, in society. I think I just um, almost automatically rebelled, but it wasn't a rebellion it wasn't overt. It was always very.
Avoidant.
You're waiting to use that word. So, like, even the way we named Amani, right? To me, that was a piece of cultural rebellion because, just to explain to people, in both our cultures, the naming of a child is a very important thing, and very often it will be that you're naming the child after one of your parents. If it's a boy, you're naming them after the man's father, etc. And in many cultures across the continent of Africa, you find that that's the norm. But one of the things that I loved is that Naya is also a rebel. Don't just see me here, being all undercover. We we have receipts, but when it came to like naming our kids, we were very deliberate. We knew we wanted to give them their own names, not name them after anyone, because to us, and names were part of the child's identity, and not give them their own unique identity, and it's not pegged to anyone that lived before them. And so, that was one of the points at which, there's a departure from culture for me. And back to your question of, am I happy? Like, I was having brunch with a friend today, and um, she hadn't seen my hair like this before. So it's a bit of a shock. And for a lot of people who are seeing me with hair like this, they used to having me have like cropped short hair, you know. And I think ever since 2020, I started growing out my hair, and I didn't go to the barber because, to catch COVID. And the hair just grew. And then I think maybe sometime last year, I also stopped combing it. And I think for me, part of that was a bit of a rebellion, a bit of a counterculture sort of thing for myself mentally. It's like, yeah, I'm going to go to the office and my hair is going to be just natural, like not even combed natural, just natural. Let it grow the way it wants to grow. And, I was always kind of very prim and proper and, um, yeah. And
I went to school in
Strathmore.
Strathmore.
Thank you.
Went
Yes.
to Strathmore, and
Yes.
I went to school in the UK,
Yeah.
and I
So-
drank tea
With the little finger up.
with a little finger up, and I speak very proper English. I do not cuss. I do not raise my voice. I am a gentleman.
Thank you. Yes, that's still very much me. And so I think rebelling against culture or norms is a thing that I like. Like, if everyone is running to something, I go the opposite direction. Game of Thrones. All my friends are, oh, have you watched Game of Thrones? And then I was like, it sounded like an interesting story, but because so many people were gravitating towards it, I set myself a challenge and say I'll never watch this thing, and I never have. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. If you drop a dislike, I'm gonna delete it. Anyway, so I'm just kidding. But yeah, again, back to culture. I think it prescribes so much of how we interact with each other and with society. And there are many things about culture that are good, but I feel like there are many things that are they don't make sense. They didn't make sense to me, so I didn't do them. You know, and others that were just, in my view, outright just wrong. So I just, for sure, did the opposite of what they prescribe. So I think I think even just how we are interacting right now is very countercultural, um, and it's just saying to people it's okay to not conform. It's okay to not fit into a mold. It's okay to not be what society has decided you should be, or how a breakup should be, or how couples should relate. Because, like you were saying earlier, a lot of people are trapped in their own houses, in their marriages, because they're trying to save face. They're trying to, keep up appearances, and they're dying inside. You know.
Literally.
Yeah.
Because that stuff will kill you.
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah.
I remember, like, watching my mom's friends over the years just suffer from mental breakdown after mental breakdown after mental breakdown. And when you look at it, it was the marriages, you know. And we're not here to bash marriage. I think we had some incredible years, but when it stopped serving its purpose, which at the foundation should be the individuals who got married, because after that, it's like y'all need to stay for the kids,
Right.
And you guys fix this for your children. You're such pillars in the community, right? But we didn't marry the community. We didn't have kids.
Right. Exactly.
When we got married.
Yeah.
And so at the core, we weren't working, so the marriage wasn't working. The kids don't make a marriage.
Mm.
The community doesn't make a marriage. It's the two individuals.
Mm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
that's culture.
Yeah. It is culture.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Culture has its place. I feel like I've ebbed and flowed through my agreeing and disagreeing like yourself. We've had very parallel journeys as to what systems we adhere to and why and when. And I'm actually right now more on going back to culture, to my roots, to my history and my ancestry, and learning more about that. It's been a great journey, and look back and like, why did I make that decision? I should have done it the cultural way, No regrets though, because that's life. And this phase of the journey, I didn't think that way, but now I think differently. Back then, you never hear me say, "Oh, I'm a princess."
Right.
Like people who knew me knew.
Yeah.
But I would never like
vocalize
it or anything.
Right.
But that's a huge part of who I am, of who my children are, right? Their culture, their history, their heritage, and it does affect how we navigate the world and how we see the world and how people who understand perceive us, right? That being said, I think this is a good place to put a pause. So on the next episode, we can explore what you were just talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know what that was?
I mean, it's talking about counterculture. It's talking about staying. We touched on like people staying in. You're being trapped. You're trapped in the marriage. You're trapped.
So we're gonna talk about like that gray zone, the trapped feeling, finding happiness, and what that looks like. The next episode of Unpacking.
That's a Cambodia.
That's folding the clothes.
Oh. Okay, do it again. Let me try. How do you fold clothes?
Put them like this. Then put them in the book. You have to hold your clothes with gratitude. That's what Marie Kondo says. Thank you for these clothes that have served me well. Now I will bring you away.